Coming up on City Corner, Steve Ewing, owner of Steve's Hot Dogs and lead singer of The Urge. You don't want to miss it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to City Corner. I'm Tim Lampley. My guest today is the subject of a new book called 4 Years of Flavor. St. Louisans and many others know him as the owner of Steve's Hot Dogs, but there are many who know him as the lead singer of The Urge, one of the coolest rock bands that's been rocking out for nearly 4 decades. Steve, welcome.
Good to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
So before we get into the book, let's talk a little bit about The Urge.
Well, The Urge is a band that I started with my friend Carl and some other guys at Webster Groves High School. We started in '87, actually. So I was actually still in high school. We were playing shows, garages. We were playing, house parties, anything we could play to start getting gigs. And then we kind of made our way through. Signed a record deal in '94. Put that first major record out, toured, and then we made a big record in '98. That had a single jump right in, which actually hit top 10 for us.
We're going to get a little bit into all of that. But first, I want you to tell me a little bit about how you would describe The Urge.
Oh, man, that's hard to describe The Urge. I've been trying to for years, but it's a mix between all the stuff that we were into. So we were into ska, we were into reggae, we were into funk and soul and metal. And so, like, if you could imagine all of those together. So it's hard to describe it, but on radio, they just call it alternative. That we're all modern rock, so we're a modern rock band.
Now, do I understand how you got here with The Urge? Is that you were walking past the homes of some of the band members?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you heard the music?
Correct. So
tell me that story.
The guys used to rehearse, and just as an instrumental band, I used to hear them practicing on the way walking home from school. And
as you mentioned, they went to Webster.
They all went to Webster, yep. Yeah. Except for one guy, but they're all Webster kids. So I would walk past the rehearsal space, which was Jeff Herschel's house. And I'm like, oh man, it's really cool. I really wanted to be in a band, and I really liked how they sounded. And turns out that I knew the drummer's sister. And I was always into vocals. I was into singing. I was in the choir and all that. So I really want to be in front of a band. So he's like, my brother, they're looking for a singer. So that's how we got connected.
So in 1987, though, it wasn't every day that you'd see a black guy who was heading an alternative rock band. Did that add to the band's appeal, or was there challenges out on the road?
I think there's always a challenge when you're doing something that's not necessarily the norm, especially with music. It's marketed like in so many little packages. But the stuff that we grew up on, the stuff that we really liked, all featured interracial bands. So we were into, like I said, the Specials and the English Beat, and even Sly and the Family Stone and Prince, and all those bands were essentially black guys fronting white bands or fronting rock bands. So that's what I was into. So yeah, we knew like out of the box it wasn't going to fit necessarily into a little cookie cutter, but that's what we were into. That's what we liked.
And how did you deal with that?
We just pushed on through. We made what we were going to make. So like, this is our music, and this is what we're going to put out there. And turns out a lot of people were into it. So
apparently so, because you developed sort of a cult following here. I have to admit, you add to that Prince and some of the other bands that you mentioned, the Ohio Players. And of course, as you mentioned, Earth, Wind, and Fire. On the surface, it might seem interesting that would be inspirational for you all. But then when you look closer, you see the live music and the live instruments and the band and energy and all that. So is that really, what you studied or what you grew up with listening?
Yeah. So like you hear that music, it's big because there's horns, there's everything in it. But then when you see bands like Earth, Wind, and Fire perform, it's extremely energetic to see that many people playing that tight on stage. It's big, and so that I've always been moved by that, and even Parliament Funkadelic, which is even bigger than that. It's very moving. So when you see all the instrumentation, in that rock kind of realm, it's awesome.
The band released a recording in 1988 called Bust Me That 40.
Yeah.
And started out playing small bars and parties. Was the idea to make it big, or you were just rocking out for the moment?
So we were all at that point all in. Like, I was still in high school. I was just getting out of high school, and the other guys had already just graduated. So at that point, we were like, well, let's do this. You know what I mean? So it's like, if we're going to do that, we need to make a cassette. And everybody was making cassettes at the time, if you could.
Cassettes.
Yep.
Everybody.
So this came out on cassette. So this was 1988. And this was really before CDs even kind of came into the picture. So, so we put this out on cassette locally, and we just took it everywhere with us. And we were able to build a nice little following here in the region with just a cassette, and then kind of built on that.
And tell me about, and we're jumping to this experience in California that involved the limousine, when you kind of started to feel like you were making progress here.
Oh, in California, in a limousine, I don't know.
Were you guys, were you riding around? Did someone give you some special service when you went out there as a band or as a group?
Well, that was early on when before we signed a record deal. Mm-hmm. We were just being courted by a lot of labels. And so at that time, yes, we were in a lot of limos because, we had put a record out independently that sold really well in the region. And so now we had record labels trying to sign it. So we were doing the whole show. And so labels were flying us out to New York and LA. And so, yes, we were hanging out that way.
So let's make our way to MTV.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like? So you had a few videos pop up, not just pop up, but you negotiated, and then you got on MTV. That was big.
That was really big, yep. So MTV was like, gosh, even by 90, 94, 95, it was kind of at its height. And it's amazing to, get your song and video on MTV. It changes the whole game. So it was great. We signed with Immortal Records, which was distributed by Sony. And we just had a great team. And once, we put that record out, they were very adamant about getting us a video made and getting it out there and really promoting the band. They did a good job.
And who were all the members of the band, I guess, as you started to see that fan base and started to become more popular?
Yep.
Because you changed a little bit at some point, right, band members?
Correct, yep. So the original drummer and the original guitarist left the band, and we replaced them with John Pizzoni who on the drums, and then Jerry Jose, who plays guitar. So we replaced them with those two guys who are really good friends of ours already, and they were in another band that played with us already, so it just made perfect sense. They already knew all the songs, and they kind of already knew the vibe and the whole thing, so they fit right into it.
I want to read a few comments from the internet about you guys. One person said, The Urge is the greatest band you never heard of. Another said, these guys should have blown up. They burn down the stage every time I see them. You have had, as we mentioned, some successes though, and you really have developed that base. But how do you feel when people say you missed your big break?
Well, I don't really take too much stock in that. Just because how the music game works, it's crazy, and it's to get a hit record in itself is a major accomplishment. So I look at it these are major accomplishments. We've gotten to a place that honestly I thought I would never get. Where I was on MTV, where I was actually touring, I was actually doing exactly what I set out to do. So in my mind, I'm doing and I did what I really wanted to do already.
And at some point you moved out to Los Angeles, but you came back.
Correct.
Why?
So I moved out to LA. The Urge had just switched labels. So we signed with Virgin Records. And so we just didn't know anybody at the label hardly. So I moved out to LA just to kind of form some relationships personally with the label. And we had a new management company. Same thing, just kind of make some relationships. And so I moved out there with the idea that I would stay out there for a year. And during that time, the Urge wasn't really doing anything. So my wife and I just kind of settled in. We stayed out there for a while until she got pregnant, and then we moved back to St. Louis because we knew we wanted to raise a family right here with other family, with grandparents and, all that here in St. Louis. And we like the city, so we're back.
And we're glad you returned.
Yep.
We're glad you're back. But this is fascinating too. So let's pivot a bit. Being out on the road made way for another blessing in 2009. So an idea for a hot dog cart pops into your head.
Sure.
Tell me how that happens. Like you just, hey, hot dogs.
So I moved back to St. Louis. I got a newborn, and I'm still playing a lot. I'm playing a whole lot, but I'm doing all regional stuff now. So I'm doing probably 200 shows plus a year just in the region. And what I noticed is after shows, there was no food. So in like some other cities we'd be in, some major markets, you'd see somebody outside selling some food with a cart or, a little roach coach or something, So I noticed there wasn't any of that. And I just started thinking about filling the gap. And so I just kept talking about buying a hot dog cart to everybody around me and see what the feedback would be. And some people were like, oh, that'd be great. And some people were like, you're crazy. And so I just did it. I just bought one, took it with me to wherever we were going for a little while and set it up and actually started selling food and did pretty good. Even in some places, there wasn't even a provision for it. We just showed up and they're like, well, we don't know if it's against the law or not against the law, but they left me alone and we made money. So that kind of got me thinking I think we're on the same.
And now you're in the soccer stadium.
Correct.
Well, we have to break. Let's break for a second. And when we come back, we'll be joined by photographer Keith Brake. We're going to break and we're going to be joined by Keith Brake when we come back.
Nice.
We'll be back in a moment.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
When I was 10, my mom got deported. We had a difficult time, and I feel that's why I didn't get to finish school. My husband is really supportive in a way that he pushed me to go back to school.
She wants to have a career so her kids can look up to her.
They both keep me motivated to go to school, and they see that if I do it, like they can do it too, I feel that everything's possible.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted.
My name's Stacy, I'm 57, and I was adopted in 2020. One teen can come in and make you look at life in a whole different way.
You know, he's my father, so I look up to him a lot. If I can be 10% of the man he is, I'll be a happy person for sure.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Did you know that you can watch STL TV on your smart TV? That's right. With the new STL TV Now app, you can watch STL TV at home without a cable subscription. And that includes our live broadcast channel as well as video on demand content. We have apps for Apple TV, Fire TV, and Roku. You probably have at least one of those at home, right? But this one is a Fire TV. Now listen, it is really easy to get started. Just find the App Store on your TV, then search for STL TV Now. Select it and click to install. And in just a few seconds, you are enjoying STL TV's great programming such as City Corner, Inside Sports, City Government, and public interest coverage. Or, my personal favorite, In the Kitchen.
Hey everybody, welcome back to City Corner. I'm Tim Lampley, sitting here with Steve Ewing, owner of Steve's Hot Dogs and frontman for The Urge. We are joined by photographer Keith Brake, who is here to talk about the book, 4 Years of Flavor. Keith, I understand you also used to sing, though.
Yeah, that seems like a whole nother lifetime ago, but I did spend about a decade in bar bands and cover bands and playing all over town in St. Louis area. So a little bit of a singing history under my belt as well, yeah.
I got that from my editor, Tony. What's your connection to Tony?
Tony and I, he was the drummer in the band that I was in. We played in a cover band called Dysphasic. We started, we tried to do what The Urge did, write original material and you know, go somewhere with it, but we were not blessed in that manner. So we quickly transitioned into playing covers and earning money and having a lot of fun doing it.
And now you're this master photographer. Keith, you bought your first camera to photograph your daughter's graduation.
That's correct.
And has been in love with photography ever since. Why?
I think it's, unlike other forms of art, you have just enough control to feel like you're in control, but you still have to capture what you're given. So even if it comes down to nature or landscape, the weather still plays a role, the cloud cover still plays a role. Comes down to capturing guys like this who jump and run and pull their hat down over their eyes on stage. It's a whole other set of challenges to get that art. So you can control the things that you can control and be consistent in that manner, but there's still the element of surprise and being satisfied with what you're surprised with.
Okay, 4 Years of Flavor. Tell me about the title first.
Well, when we had the idea to do the book, we didn't have a title.
We did not, yeah.
We just knew we were going to do a book. So we were sitting around chatting one day and we said, let's just have a contest. Let's throw it out to the public on Facebook and we'll take the best name that we both like. And then as a reward for that, that individual is going to get a free autographed book and a photo shoot provided by me with Steve. So the individual who was chosen, his name was 4 Years of Flavor. And now that the books are starting to filter in from the order, we're going to schedule that photo shoot with him and keep our word because he gave us a fantastic name for the book.
I was a bit surprised that it was as thick as it is. It's a few hundred pages and hardcover. Tell us a little bit about what people will see and why you chose the photos that you chose.
The photos that are in the book are, first of all, Steve and I agree and approve on every one of them that was in there. So, you know, when you work for 4 years with somebody, you get a lot of photos, but maybe he doesn't like something about one of them, or maybe I think one's not quite so strong. So It's 100% agreed upon by the both of us, and it covers almost everything that Steve does on a fairly regular basis. Okay, so he's into bodybuilding, and that was the one thing that we could not line up and actually get the images that we wanted to get because he's busy. He's like the busiest guy in St. Louis, and my day job keeps me hopping as well.
That was the thing I was most surprised by too. So you're owner of a restaurant, lead singer of a alternative rock band, and bodybuilder.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to ask you about that. But first, I would like to know about the photographs in this book for you. Which do you think are the most authentic to who you are?
I like the photos that Keith takes of me that I don't know he's taking them. The candid photos are great because that kind of gives you an idea actually what I'm doing.
This one is great.
Yeah, that photo was from one of the first fitness shoots we did at his studio, and that was great. That was one of the first times we really kind of got into shooting some studio stuff. So, but yeah, I like the candid photos that he gets because that really kind of gets you in there. Like, okay, this is me. This is what I'm doing. I'm in my element. So I like those photos.
Of those different stages in your life or those different things in your life, where were you the most comfortable, I guess I should say,
you'll see me on stage. I mean, like you'll see me just on stage a lot or around stages because that's what I do. I mean, I'm performing a lot. So he captures me a lot on whether either on stage or backstage figuring things out or, those things. But I'm always around stages, yep.
How many photographs did you choose from?
The full lot to choose from?
Oh, man.
I don't know. 4.5 to 5 years worth of working with him. So the first 2 years, 2.5 years worth of material, I didn't know Steve. So it was just me getting media credentials and going to concerts and photographing the Urge. So we had a chance to meet through a mutual friend, and then that led and parlayed into us actually working together with some plans, and then that ended up in the book, like forming the book. So.
Is it different in choosing photographs when you know someone and when you don't know them? You know what I'm saying? So
it is, but it's harder to choose for someone you don't know.
Right.
And that may be counterintuitive, but when you post a photo on social media and you're trying to get your brand out there, you're counting on having the subject of the photo like it enough so that they spread it.
Right.
And
that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't know what he liked in the beginning. Now, we've worked together so long,
you can capture his essence probably better when you get to know someone, right?
Yeah, but the interesting thing about Steve is he's always the same. Like, he's not changed one single bit since the very first day that I met him.
Steve, you're still the same.
I'm still the same.
Still rock it out.
Yes.
What was your goal with just the entire book of putting it together? Because you could have chose any subject, but you really wanted to focus in on Steve Ewing and just, I guess, his entire career. When you think he's been rocking for since '87, so nearly 40 years.
Yeah. Since I was in college, and you can see the white in this beard, so
right.
that tells. My purpose with the book, once we decided to do it, was I just was hopeful that in some way I could portray what he does with his life, because he's an amazing person who does amazing things every day. And I'm fortunate enough to have formed a friendship with him, and I just want the essence of what he does for his community and his family in the book. I want it to come through.
Tell me about the photos that you see there.
That's the original Steve's Hot Dogs location. So Steve and I went kind of back to where it all began to get some shots there. So we felt that it would be necessary or pertinent to have that in the book.
The first spot down there on Grand and Second, which was the street spot. And then we went over to the hill, and that's where I opened my first brick and mortar, the first Steve's Hot Dogs. So yeah, it's pretty cool to go back and visit them spots. Actually, I hadn't been there in years, so yeah.
So let's get back to the bodybuilding thing. When did that journey start?
That started, gosh, I think it's about 7 years ago. And I'd always trained, I'd always kind of been in shape. And so some friends of mine that I had met at the gym were all talking about how they competed in bodybuilding. And I always thought you just had to be just massive and you had to, you know, you'd be like Arnold Schwarzenegger to compete. And there's like, you compete in your class, in your age group, and this, whatever. And it's really all about just getting in the best shape that you can be and showing it off. And so I did my first show with the help of mine, Phil Schifo, and really kind of fell in love with the whole competing part of it. So it's been fun.
Awesome. Tell me where people can follow you, catch you, and what's coming up. And Keith, what's new? What's going on with you after the book?
Okay.
So you can catch me at steveewingmusic.net. That's my website. So all of my shows, all the information is there. You can go to Steve's Hot Dogs STL.com for the restaurant. TheUrge.net is where you can see all the Urge stuff, whatever. We just got a bunch of brand new merchandise and some cool things with the Urge we're doing. We're co-headlining Point Fest, 105.7 The Points. Big festival this year with 311 and just some really cool tour dates that are going to happen later on this year with the Urge. I'll be at Slipping Into Darkness, the beer festival with my Master Blaster Stevie Wonder tribute, March 8th. So quite a few things happening.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't have nearly that much going on, but if you want to check out my work, you can go to Keith Brake Photography on Instagram, or Keith Brake Photo on Instagram. You can also go to Facebook and just look up me under my name. You asked what's coming after the book. I have some thoughts in mind. Through working with Steve, I got to meet a lot of St. Louis musicians. So I have another project in mind that could potentially result in another book in the future, but I don't want to divulge too much right now. But the photos are, I'm still working in the studio. I have a shoot tonight and still doing what I do, and yeah, looking forward to what the future brings.
And don't forget to grab 4 Years of Flavor, swing by Steve's Hot Dogs, and catch the Urge live. Gentlemen, thank you again for joining us, Steve and Keith. Really appreciate it. Until next time, keep innovating and cooking your own flavor. I'm Tim Lampley. We'll check you out next time right here on City Corner.